That's right, Ambassador Keshi. You've been critical of the process, of releasing the results of the elections, to wit, the presidential election, and of course the National Assembly elections. Now, would you say this cumbersome, slow process of releasing the results, would you say it's actually deliberate? Because, I mean, it's gone on for so long.
I don't know. I don't know whether it is deliberate or it's not deliberate. Look, but here's my take. I always say to my friends and to people, particularly to my kids, if you don't know what to do, watch television. If you don't know, I repeat, if you don't know what to do, watch television. And I want to actually ask Nigerians to adopt that mantra, and if Nigerians have time, particularly Saturdays and Sunday, if they just sit down at home and watch global networks, they will learn a lot about what's going on in the world and how things are done. Because we can't pretend that we are unique and we continue to rationalize our failures when things go back, or we give excuses for why things have gone wrong, when we could have done better, given the fact that we are not unique, we are not pioneers. People hold elections and the results are announced the same day in countries larger than Nigeria, in countries with the same, difficult terrains. If this election was going on in Britain, you know that by now, by tomorrow, I mean, if this was in Britain, by Sunday this morning, we would have had all the results, and the elected Prime Minister would be, by Monday morning, would be on the way to Buckingham Palace to, to seek the Queen's approval to form a government. If it was in the United States, everybody would have known the results and so on. So what excuse do we have, number one, for deciding to have election today and then another one in 2 weeks' time? Look, when you look at some of the things we do, you begin to see that we actually create the bulk of the problems and unnecessary problems for ourselves. I was looking at the representatives of the political leaders at the event this evening. And when you look at those who were introducing themselves as chairman, leader of this party, chairman of this party, you will notice that the chairman, the secretary of PDP or APC are not there. They were not there at this evening. Why? Because these are the two serious parties in the country. And so they are busy at their headquarters collating results. The point I'm trying to make is that when you talk to some of these APC headquarters or PDP headquarters, they actually have collected enough results, particularly at the presidential, to be able to know exactly the trend of where they're going to and so on. So for anybody to tell me that, INEC can do better in terms of releasing the result, I really don't subscribe to that. But I make the point I've made again, that we need to begin to re-examine the process, of election in this country. We have 4 years. It took us 4 years to prepare for this election. See how it has ended. In 2015, the same thing. In 2011, the same thing. At some point in time, we must begin to interrogate ourselves. Can't we do these things? Can't we do these things better? And the former police commissioner was talking of what they did and the rest of them. Well, we are not discussing the police, because I would have given a reply to my perception about police involvement, military involvement, and the rest of it. But again, it's a total combination that we need to examine the process, make life simple and easier for Nigerians so that they can enjoy being participants in this process. Look, we closed down this country on Friday. We declared it a public holiday. Election was postponed on Saturday. A week later, we had another public holiday on Friday, election again on Saturday. In some countries, election is held even on a working day, and everything goes on well. Why is that so difficult in this country? Why? You know, we just must. For me, I keep saying this to everybody, let's begin to really take things seriously in this country. I know leadership is fundamentally part of the problem. I know our attitude to a number of things is part of the problem. Our value system is part of the problem. And in this election also, you must also blame the political actors themselves. Because at the end of the day, they create the bulk of the problem that makes INEC's work, you know, a little bit difficult or cumbersome. So until we can, I think yesterday you talked of having a conversation, and I have my own views about that. But the truth of the matter is that we need to begin to have a conversation on how do we make this process seamless so that people will feel happy to. In some countries, people just get out of their home, walk across in the morning, they are walking, they are going to the office, they go, they vote, they get into the bus and go to work. On their way back, some stop and vote. During the day, the market people, everybody, you are going to shop, you stop and vote. We can actually do these things, you know, and not every now and then we find reasons to, if we do not blame the weather, we blame logistics. If we do not blame the logistics, we blame funding. If we do not blame funding, we just have excuses. We must find a way of ending these excuses and begin to do things well. And I make the point again, technology is making life very easy to do things. It makes processes very efficient. And we shouldn't be shy of doing this. The bulk of money we are using to send people all over the country, observers, this and that and so on, we can actually invest in technology and do a better job. That's the point I want to make.
Interestingly, Ambassador Keshi, I still want to talk to you, ask you about this phenomenon, technology. Now, we know its benefits. You know, it can be very immense in terms of how we conduct elections. But you have people argue that perhaps for the Nigerian population, you know, the wide range number of voters may not necessarily be, should I say, averse to some of the technologies, even as we have it today. You may have to start telling them how to use certain things and all of that, and the process may not be well understood by them. We're talking about the peculiarities again.
Look, but you are just doing exactly what I keep saying. You are trying to make an argument and excuse for a refusal to do things properly.
But how do we now break out of this? I mean, what should we now do as collectively? You know, particularly the populace. I mean, the INEC. I mean, it has to be all encompassing for everyone.
Yes. Also, Ambassador. The gentleman here.
Let me make this point. Let me make this point before the next question.
I want to help your point, sir.
Let me make this point before the next question.
Okay.
Educating and mobilizing voters to understand the electoral process is part of the responsibility of political parties, which political parties and political actors in this country don't even care. You know, look, I was an observer. Actually, not an observer. I participated in the process linked to the Namibian independence. One of the most significant things that happened in that election was that the three or four main political parties spent more time, not so much in campaigning, but in going around the country and educating the people on how to vote. That was not the responsibility of the United Nations, transition group that was managing the process. Political party leaders and political actors took it upon themselves. Look, after all, we have constituencies. And every federal legislator should have a constituent office in his constituency. The same with senators. And when you take a place like, again, the United Kingdom or the United States, every weekend, politicians retire to their constituencies and begin to discuss policies and the rest of it, with their constituents. This is what our people do not do. INEC can do its own bit, but it is the politicians who need to begin to enlighten those who will vote for them that this is how you have to vote. This is the new thing that they're bringing in. So if they become part of the education process to enlighten people on how to vote, you will see that this whole process will be seamless. But as long as they don't pay attention to that particular... Is it not interesting that you have 11 million PVCs that are not collected? If I was running for an election, I'd be interested to know, has everybody in my constituents received its or her, PVC? If not, I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that everybody has a PVC. Because at the end of the day, I am the beneficiary when my constituents who are going to vote for me have a PVC. So if they do not collect PVCs, be sure that I'm not going to get enough vote to, for my election. So the point I'm trying to make is that political parties also must begin to play a role in this process to ensure that we have a very seamless, easygoing process. And I make the point, and I keep repeating this point, that in a number of countries in this world, they run election with very minimal problems. But here we just make all kinds of excuses. Look, we are having this conversation, and you gentlemen in the media in the studio, I'm sure you can say to yourself, 2015 you had the same conversation, 2011 you had the same conversation, 2019 we are having the same conversation, and 2023 we'll probably be sitting down here making the same argument. Why is it so slow? Why are the results coming out late? Why does this, why did we not do this and the rest of it? So we just must be serious about the way we do things. That's the point I want to make, and I keep emphasizing that until we begin to take these things seriously and ensure that we do things properly, we continue to make excuses for our failures.